Right, so showing you how to use the Toowoomba Regional Council online mapping tools. First one is just showing you where to find them. So this link up here, you pop that into your web browser. There's a couple of options here. The main ones we're looking at are infrastructure, planning scheme, and the flood risk information portal. Some of these sort of interconnect with each other, but you can look at them in isolation as well. So the first one to show you is the Toowoomba Region Flood Risk Map. Pretty straightforward, this one. As you open it, this is what you see straight away. So you automatically have this risk layers here, and it's pretty self-explanatory, easy enough to follow. The one thing to note is that it doesn't show as you zoom out. So you sort of need to be zoomed into an area before it starts to register the flood overlays. So you can see it there. Something else just to point out is when you see something like this where it just stops, but all of a sudden there's flooding through here, most of the flood mapping tools through Toowoomba are through like creeks and waterways. And so they're sort of deliberately there, I guess, to help manage water. In this example, the reason it doesn't keep going back here is because the roads sort of all fall to this point, and there's drainage over here in this particular part of Toowoomba, which then causes all of the water runoff off the streets, etc., to travel through here. That's why then you look at these houses and these particular properties have some risk of flooding. That is the flood risk tool. The next one here is the Toowoomba planning scheme, and specifically what this has on it is all of the zones and overlays. So a couple of things to show you. When you first sort of come into the map, as you zoom out, you'll see it is all greyed out like this. And it's only when you start zooming in do those colours start to show. You can actually apply those colours through these fields here. So you've got planning data, you click on this planning scheme one, and then the first one is the land use zones. So if I just toggle that on and off for a moment, you can see that helps you get an understanding of where the zonings are for these properties. For residential stuff, the two main zones we're looking at is this sort of light and darker pink. Light pink indicates low density residential. The sort of darker pink is that low to medium density residential. And again, typically when you see low to medium, it does mean that there is opportunity for sort of multiple dwellings or redevelopment of that site. It is possible in low res areas, but it usually triggers a public notification. So you just got to keep an eye on that. Obviously, as they evolve the planning scheme over the years, like you can see these unit complexes here and these areas, these are currently low res or low density. And that's because once upon a time ago, they used to allow this sort of stuff. Whenever they did the most recent planning scheme updates, they've sort of moved away and then changed the zonings, and now they're trying to restrict some of the development in these light shade areas here. Everything's broken down here, all the different categories of zones, etc. The other thing to look at with zoning in and around Toowoomba is the overlays. So with respect to overlays, I'm just going to toggle it on here. And what the overlays do, you'll notice it instantly creates some new shadings over some of the properties. The big overlay that I like to draw people's attention to, particularly if you're thinking of looking at something for development, is what they call the neighbourhood character overlay. And so if I just toggle that off for a minute, you'll notice there's so much of this light pink and dark pink stuff through here. But then if I toggle it back on, a lot of that turns to yellow. The character neighbourhood character overlay basically indicates where the Toowoomba Regional Council is trying to protect that character of the streets. So a lot of them have sort of timber cottages, that natural character charm. They're quite protective of that in Toowoomba. Usually it means if you're going to do development, whatever you do there has to be in keeping with the neighbourhood character. And so you'll notice as I move north in this instance here, you can see where the yellow stops, and usually that's a pretty good indication of where the houses start to change in the style of property. All right, well, that will wrap up the planning scheme tools. The final one to look at is infrastructure. So the infrastructure mapping tool, again, just zooming out as you first load this screen, it shows you like this, all grayed out. Apologies, a bit of a lag on my end. Great, here we go. So there is a full breakdown here of what all of these things are. You can toggle these to get a full understanding of what everything means. Short of it that I look at, red is sewage, green is stormwater, blue is mains water. You can click on these as well, and it actually tells you what they are. So it tells you what these sort of individual things are as you click on them. The other cool tool within the infrastructure is the contours. So the reason you might use contours is, again, if you were thinking about a potential development site for someone, you might want to know which way the land slopes from the road. So you can come and toggle on the contours here. And in this particular instance, what have we got? 657, 656, so that'll be 55, I'm guessing, yep. So in this instance here, we can sort of see that it's higher at the back of this property than it is towards the front, which is an indication that the water falls towards the street frontage, which is good from a development point of view. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you've got questions, more questions about how to use these tools, reach out. I'm happy to step you through it more one-on-one. Thanks.